save your foot. People wanting to take it. Oh my God.
No, not over. Wait till the next elevator gets
Right
here.
in the middle. Oh, that was your pen. Okay. Molly found it.
Oh, it was. Oh, good. Yes.
Did I hand it to Frank? But I didn't.
Oh, I've got.
Oh, you're the runner.
I'm a run.
I'm
That I
impressed.
can do.
I'm impressed.
Tomorrow maybe not. We take it by the day, don't we? It's
You know? Run. Well, I didn't see any of our groups walking over this way. No, I don't think so. Probably last month we did your guy town. See, you've got your mic in your hand, Molly. Are you gonna?
I run with it.
The runner. Oh, you're the runner today?
You're probably one of the few that can. Well, I was saying today I can run. Maybe tomorrow, maybe not.
Well, welcome everybody. So, our president, Therese, is out of town. So you get me, I'm Frank Greif, and I'm the vice president. All right? This is really a big, big day. This is the first time there has been a full assembly in 3 years. That's a little early because I have this sequence I want to go through. So there are lots of positives that are going on. The food's better. Some bus trips are back. The bistro is open. We had a jazz concert. We had an Oscar party and 55 people attended. Some of us are very happy to see that there are now white tablecloths at dinner. And for those of you who came from down the street, as you came in, and for those of you who might be going out in front, around the tree, the daffodils are blossoming. Now, there are a few things that still need to be resolved. The elevators are having their ups and downs. Just so you know, the original Otis elevator building in Seattle was 1 story. It's true. We have persevered over the 3 years, done a great job. We can't cheer, please wear your masks, but we can give ourselves a round of applause. And to make sure we move forward in a proper manner, we've asked Pastor Leslie to do an invocation.
Hello. The reading comes from Deuteronomy 26:11. Celebrate because of all the good things the Lord your God has given to you and your household. Well, as he said, it's been a long time since we were all together for this meeting in one place. And finally, we are here. It's good to be here, isn't it? We love it. It helps us to stay positive and hopeful, too. You get to sit where you want to sit. 3 years ago, we didn't think isolation would last very long, and then it turned into weeks, and then it turned into months, and then it turned into years. It was easy to lose hope and to find despair. But here we are, even on the cusp of losing our masks, and for this we move ahead and we are even more grateful. Just look around at the crowd gathered here today. It's wonderful. It helps us to know that we are making progress and that good things have come and more good things are on the way. Today we gather to make decisions, to learn and to plan for the future, and we get to do it together because being together is important, isn't it? It means that we can join one another for fun, engagement, enjoyment, and positivity. When we are together, we find support and encouragement. We are better when we are together. We strategize, we think, we have a hive mind. The online dictionary says a hive mind is an entity consisting of a large number of people who share their knowledge or opinions with one another, regarded as productive, either uncritical conformity or collective intelligence. I like that image, and I think it describes us here at the Hearthstone. I'm often asked if I like my work here. In case you were wondering, the answer is yes. When I answered yes, I'm immediately asked, how is it different from parish life and working in a church? Well, the biggest difference is that here we have people who gather on a daily community. This constant companionship is something that just doesn't happen, at least it didn't for me, in a congregation or a church setting. The Hearthstone is a place where people thrive. We work together and we live as a community. Today, as we gather with the resident council, let us do so remembering that we have gathered to do this work in this place, and we do it with integrity, compassion, and trust. Let us pray. Loving and gracious God, thank you for being in our midst. Help us as we gather. Bring us creativity, passion, and integrity of working together. We give thanks for the ways you have strengthened us in the past, and we know you will continue to guide and direct us now and in the future. We are grateful for the many ways you sustain us. Your presence in our daily lives renews us and gives us hope. Thank you for the many blessings we have, and where there is suffering or illness, we pray for the gentleness of your Spirit to sustain and bring healing. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you. So one thing that I just remembered, we're talking about the community and how we're all together, and we talked about the positive things that have happened. A bit of technological step forward. There's a camera here. For those people who cannot be here, they can be watching it live right now in the rooms on channel 370. And for those who are away from here, can watch it live stream. So we're going to say hello to Therese. And that's really wonderful. It does continue to build the community. So looking at the agenda, the next item would be to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Well, now they've been in the books at the various floors and whatnot. Rather than reading them all, we'll make a grand assumption that you know what they are, and I would ask for someone to move they be approved. Do I hear a second? All in favor? Wow, first big group vote. Wonderful. And it was successful. All right, we have a guest here. Our next person to come before us is Tony. Tony Alton is the Director of Facilities and Maintenance. Let me give you a little bit of background about Tony, because he's an interesting guy. He's been part of the Sodexo family of employees for more than 15 years. He was born and raised in Tacoma. He's married, has a teenage daughter. They still live in Tacoma. Now, he's been deeply involved over a number of years in Bates Technical College. Now, for those of you who may not know, it's a 2-year state college, technical college in Tacoma. Over that time, he's been the manager of campus operations. He's also been an instructor in the continuing education program, teaching administrative leadership, system development for preventative maintenance. Also significant, particularly for us, he is nationally certified as a trainer in the operation of forklifts. I don't know how that's going to help us, but we're glad you're here. I asked him why he's still working. You know what he said? I love what I do. We're glad you're here to do what you do. Would you please welcome Tony?
I don't have a speech, but I do have bullet points to keep me on track and stuff like that. First, when I volunteered to come up here, I didn't know it was going to be in front of a big group, huge group. I thought maybe 5, 10, 15. No, not the whole assembly. So thank you. I want to thank Therese for having me, Frank here for having a conversation with me last week, bring me up to speed on some things, and then the rest of y'all for allowing me in your homes. Okay, so thank you. First bullet, who am I? Tim. I am Tim. And Frank is correct. I'm born and raised down in the Tacoma area. Currently live in Steilacoom. It's a fun commute some mornings, and it's a fun commute home some nights. But I'm here because I already know this is probably going to be my last stop. Okay? I look to work at places now in my career, places that are welcoming, have an atmosphere about them that entices me. And my first conversation I had with Reggie, I felt really good about it. Because not only was he having a conversation with me, I was interviewing him also at the same time. Then I had a conversation with Rosie, and I knew immediately that Rosie needed somebody that was strong, who could help with some regulatory issues that were going on in the skilled nursing facility and over at assisted living and stuff like that. So, trying to think of what else might help. Yes, I can drive a forklift. I actually taught forklift driving. Let me see, what other classes did I teach? OSHA 500. I taught all the OSHA classes, so I'm very safety orientated. I will be teaching my team things like safety related stuff so that they work in a safer environment and stuff like that. Now I want to get into the meat. Day one, I walked in this community 6 weeks ago. Day one, I was hit with a fire hose with things like Cove West, no heat. Cove West, no hot water. Elevator number 1's down. Elevator number 3's down. Bunch of regulatory issues that needed immediately addressed up in the skilled center. Things like that. I walked into some really big opportunities. Okay? And those opportunities were so big that I actually asked for a meeting with the Cove West folks because everybody was blowing up my phone of, when are you going to fix the heat, Tim? When are you going to fix the heat, Tim? When are you going to fix the heat, Tim? And so I decided to just have a blanket meeting with everybody and just tell them everything I know and don't know. So as you well know, Cove West heat is working, okay? Okay, so the root cause was finally found out. It was repaired. It was 2 compressors on 2 separate units, but it also allowed us to now dig a little deeper in what caused those compressors to fail. And that's what we're starting to address now as we speak, because we had leaks in the system, which overtaxed the compressors, which they failed long before their time. So we're addressing some leak issues, and that is in a couple of very specific areas where the heater cores are bad. We've secured those areas, but more importantly, not only did we identify 2 spaces, I decided that at the time that we would put 2 extra heater cores on our shelf. Because I know if 2 have failed already, 2 more are gonna fail, and then 2 more are gonna fail. And we wanna be a little more proactive with how we approach things. The other thing that drove me crazy, especially with Cove East, Cove West, was the fact that I'm used to having digital controls where I can communicate with the building remotely, okay? I don't have that luxury over there. So if there's an issue, if you call, it's too hot, too cold, whatever it is, somebody has to run all the way over there and stuff like that. It's not very proactive at all. We are working with the McDonald Miller, to be exact, of getting us addressable systems so that I can at least see what's happening over there, be a little more proactive with some things before hopefully I get the call that it's too hot, too cold, things like that. If it becomes part of my pattern of management, part of Joel's pattern of management, part of Roger's, then we're gonna be a lot more successful. So we're gonna end up with remote access to where we can look at the main controls of that building. Right now, our master controller is on the 2nd floor of each building in I think, a little IT closet. So you can go over there and address all the controls from there, but I want to do it remotely, and that is going to happen hopefully next week. Elevators, oh my goodness, where do we start with that? Oh my Lord. That's been a real fun opportunity. So we all know elevator one's been down. It's been down since I've been here, okay? So I know at least 6 weeks, okay? Probably much further back than that. Well, a couple of things happened as a result of that is, one, we canceled the contract with the previous vendor for the elevator company because they weren't meeting our expectations here at the Hearthstone. We brought in a new vendor approximately 2 weeks ago. And we have every elevator under the same contract now. Before, we had 2 different contractors. Okay, so we have it under the same contractor now, a really good agreement. It's a national agreement, it's not a local agreement, so we have national power. And they immediately started troubleshooting and finally got number 3 working, but it still has little faults and things like that. We've got number 2, thank goodness, continues to run, but more importantly, we're expecting number 1 to be fixed either Friday of this week or early next week. The last part, there we go. Thank you, Stephen. So I got a note here. I had to write it down because I had to research it first. The last part that they were waiting for is called the elevator load weigher, okay? And this piece of equipment, it measures the tension in the cables that lifts the car. So I think that's a pretty important piece of equipment. You know, we want to be able to lift them, but we also want them to come down correctly too, okay? So a really critical piece of hardware. They're expecting it in later this week. Once we know the exact time, everybody's gonna know, okay? We'll put a blast out there saying, okay, on Monday, starting X time, we'll take, well, it's already out of service. It'll stay out of service until it's fixed and stuff like that. So, you know, if everything aligns itself well, we expect to have all 3 elevators working by next Friday, okay? I consider that a victory, okay? Now, and this is why the other elevator company is not here, is because for the elevators to fail as often as they have been, I don't think there's an effective preventive maintenance program on them. And we're holding the new company, TKE Elevator, accountable. Here's our expectations. On a monthly basis, they're coming out, they're looking for problems, okay, instead of us reacting to problems. So we're going to be a lot more proactive with this. They're also getting me access, again, I love electronic things. He's getting me access to their dashboard where I can see from anywhere what their current status on some things are and stuff like that. Go ahead. Oh, gosh. I feel trapped right here. I'm a pacer. I like to walk and talk and stuff like that. So elevators, Cove West, HVAC is being addressed. There's more to address with it though also, because we know there's a couple of heater cores that are going to have to be replaced, but we can do it based on our timeline as opposed to react in an emergency. And then also there's still some latent issues with some of the thermostats and things like that. The thermostats, we don't believe are still correct. I responded to a call this weekend on one of the thermostats that just arbitrarily decided to not work, okay? So we're thinking, but we don't know, but we think that the thermostat is not talking nicely with the occupancy sensor in the room, okay? That's what we believe is the problem. So McDonnell Miller is going to come back out in another week or so, and then they're going to start digging in deeper into some of the smaller problems that became big problems. Because if you all well know, some of you would call and say, well, just out of the blue at 11 o'clock at night, it just shut down and I couldn't get it running again, kind of thing. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's intermittent, it's different in every unit, but we want to get to the core of what's happening there. Grounds. I've already done a walkabout with our current contractor, Brightview, probably 3 weeks ago, and we identified some things that would help spruce up the we'll call it curb appeal a little bit here. And he talked to me about what they were going to be doing, and they've already started some of that. They started putting some bark around this building. They started trimming up the ivy a little bit, things like that. You can see the daffodils blooming and stuff like that. But I asked him to think about some curb appeal for some of the planter boxes over Cove East, Cove West, to think about things like how are we going to water these things, because from my understanding is we don't even have an irrigation system that works correctly. Okay, so they're going to be analyzing the irrigation system, because it won't do any good if I put these beautiful plantings in place if I can't water them. I'm also asking him to look at native plants, because they're going to be a lot more, more hardy and better likelihood of surviving. So grounds is going to be my next big one. Somebody asked me about sidewalks. You walk around this block here, and what do you see every few feet? Yellow marks, right? Yellow marks. Reggie said I'd be a hero if I can get some sidewalks fixed, okay? So I'm soliciting 3 bids for repairing the sidewalks around the community. They're the cities, but guess what? We're responsible for them, okay? So that's the law, okay? Even though it's their property, we're responsible for them. So we're gonna get bids on what it's gonna cost to raise or lower. Might need to cut some roots, things like that, because it's all based on, in most cases, roots raising the beds and stuff like that, or the slabs. Very easily fixable in a lot of cases. You don't have to grind them. Grinding is just a temporarily fix. Putting yellow paint on them is just a temporary fix. A more permanent fix is what I'm looking for. Again, I'm not sure of cost because it's a lot. It's a lot of areas around this building. So I may need to ask Reggie to phase it in, or we may just bite the bullet and make it happen all in one fell swoop kind of thing. I would concentrate on probably this hill area first, and then just systematically work around the building. Oh my, I won't get into all the life safety projects that I've been working on. That's mostly in assisted living and skilled. I wanted to close with our team and some stats, okay? Because I'm only gonna talk about the maintenance team, not housekeeping and laundry this time, but our maintenance team. They're phenomenal. They're the reason I've been as successful as I have been in the 6 weeks I've been here already. I'm going to talk about the maintenance team a little bit, and actually it's my appreciation of them. Thank you, Steve. So let's start with how long have they been here, okay? I'm going to start with lowest to highest. Karina, you may not have even met her yet. She's been here 14 days. Okay. A brand new maintenance tech I hired. She's currently working on the swing shift or second shift. When you get a chance to meet her, she is a total delight. She's raw talent, and I like that. She's got a willingness to learn. She's kind, she's open, and she does. And I really like that. 14 days. Next in line, Anitha. Who's had interactions with Anitha? Who loves Anitha? I love Anitha, okay? She's been here 5 months, okay? Another very young person here. Chris, anybody met Chris? Okay, he's made an impact in his only 2 years here, okay? He's only been here 2 years, but he is the future for us, and I've got to keep him here. He's our legacy. Then we start getting into the old timers, okay? Joel, we all know Joel. Little rough around the edges, I would say, right? A little rough around the edges. 13 years. This is his 13-year anniversary this year. Then we get into Desta, who you may not have ever seen. He tends to work night shift. And he's been here 20 years. Okay? Okay, you love Desta? Okay, thank you. I'm going to let Desta know that. Then we're getting to the really old timers. Roger. Okay, okay, okay. 33 years. And what keeps a person in one place for 33 years? There's got to be something, okay? And I call that atmosphere. Then finally, and not, this is amazing to me, is Diana. Okay, Diana's done a ton of different roles here at this community over her career, and it's 45 years. Okay, do you really think about that? 45 years in one place. I've had 2 employers in my career, one 30 and this one 15. That's nowhere close to 45, okay? That's a long time to be at one place. Most people can't make it that far. So some more stats. I love to brag about these guys because on a regular basis, just use last month as an example, 418 work orders came through the system. Okay, 418. That's you calling in or somebody else calling in staff-wise saying there's a problem. 418. 1 month. Okay? On top of it, over 800 preventive maintenance work orders came through. Okay? Those are the ones that we really, really, really want to be doing, because if you work really hard at the PMs, the preventive maintenance, you usually don't have as many reactive work orders. Okay? Over 800, combined 1,200 or more, and the productivity efficiency, that's a fancy word for saying how many did we get done in a month's period, 94, 95% of the work is consistently done. Because I started tracking it in January, and it was 94% in January, it was 95% in February. That means not only are they managing a heavy workload, they're getting it done, and I know they're not even tracking all of the work they do. Okay? Phenomenal team. That's where I want to close it with, because I love them. They've really supported me well, taught me a lot of things, because even though I've been in the business a long time, learning this building there's some unique issues with this building, okay? There's some really unique issues. I thought I would never say 1965 is old, but that's old for a building, okay? That's a long time for a building to not go through some major renovations. And then I'm gonna close with, my goal is to try to tell you things before you tell me they're a problem. Okay, that's my goal. If we're having major HVAC issues, you need to know, okay? And hopefully I could tell you before you're blowing up my phone saying I don't have any heat, or I don't have any hot water, or the elevator's broke, things like that. So I want to be as proactive as I can with it. That means working on preventive maintenance, not the reactive maintenance. And I will continue to work through the floor chairs, through the assembly, to communicate. And I'll work with Hallie for those big blasts of communication anytime something big comes up. Thank you. You guys are awesome.
Take a deep breath. Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. All right, treasurer's report. Well, guess what? Our treasurer is not here. Our treasurer is in Hawaii. Jim Kellingsworth, realizing that the high temperature this week will be 50 degrees, went to Hawaii. Here's the latest. At the end of February, we had $3,994.05 in the bank. We made a donation to Medic One in the amount of $1,000. Now, that's not as much as in the past. And the idea is, wait a minute, let's things settle down. What do we need money for? Because there's no reason why we can't make another $1,000 donation in another 3 or 4 months. So we're just kind of moving our way through that. We also have $185 that are in checks that are still outstanding that went to employees as part of the Employee Appreciation Fund that have not yet been cashed. I don't know. So that means we now have $2,994.05 in the bank. All right? So speaking of money and how wonderful things are around here, money rolling in at the gift shop. Right, Sylvia? Sylvia, can you come on up here so that people can see when they're watching? How many of you have been to the gift shop? Just a little round of applause. How many are you going back to the gift shop? There you go. You got sent here.
Hi, everybody. I don't want to take too much time, but I do have some things to tell you. First of all, January and February, we made about $1,000 each month. March has been very slow. Normally this time of year is slow, but it should start picking up now. Okay, I got 3 things to tell you. First, we now have a gift certificate that you can buy for your loved one or a friend in the gift shop. Sorry. Anyhow, so that is possible. It will be in $25 increments. So either if you want to buy more than 25, you can buy another gift certificate. So that's one thing. The other thing is I have a new product that Deborah in housekeeping brought to me, and it is to wash clothes with. Actually, I left the packet over there, but it's in my folder. I guess I didn't grab it. Anyhow, it's a packet of sheets. It's biodegradable. Oh, not, yeah, no. I got so much in there.
Teamwork.
Yes. This is the package. It's like I said, it's biodegradable, it's good for the earth, and you don't have a heavy bucket. You can just have a packet like this. To wash clothes. This can do 60 loads of small, if you do small loads. Or it can do, half sheet does a small load, and a full sheet does a medium load. If you have greasy, yucky outdoor clothes, you might want to use 2 sheets. So it depends on how you use it. But anyhow, I've been using it. It works great. It comes unscented and scented. So anybody who wants, I have some samples here that you can pick up afterwards. Okay, that's now being sold in the gift shop. $15 for this packet, which, like I said, could do 60 loads or something a little less if you do bigger loads. The last thing I want to tell you is on Thursday night at happy hour, I'm going to have, John's helping me have a little samples. We're going to be selling margarita samples in the gift shop, 6 different flavors. But you have to put your own booze in it if you want booze in it. But during happy hour, we hope to have just a little taste of one of the flavors, and it should have booze in it a little bit. Any questions? Okay, if you want some. Oh, yes.
Where are we on credit card use?
I'm going to a meeting tomorrow at 11:30 or 11 o'clock. I think we're very close. It perhaps. Oh, sorry, credit card. And actually, as long as we're bringing that up, probably the way it's going to be is we'll have a credit card machine and we'll have another machine that will do to your room, both for staff and, of course, staff goes to their paycheck, but for staff and residents. And we probably won't take cash anymore except for candy, and we'll probably have a little jar that the cash can go in for candy if you buy candy or some small thing. So hopefully in a week. Yes?
Sylvia, how are you doing on the number of volunteers to work?
Well, yeah, she wants to know about volunteers to work. We have a good group, but we don't have really enough to be open on. We'd like to be open for 1 shift on Saturday and 1 shift for Sunday. And so we could use some more volunteers that way. Plus the fact summer's coming and there's vacations and/or surgeries, various things that are going on. So if I've got to train about 3 people for sure that are going to be new volunteers. But if I've kind of been waiting until the machines come out so we can do the whole thing at one time. But please, please come and let me know if you want to be a volunteer. I'm sorry I sort of maybe after my last meeting slipped up a little bit because of the fire that was in my room, which is still a little bit disturbing because I'm not in my room and probably won't be for another week or 2. But anyhow, call me on my cell phone or catch me. Okay? Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay. We would sometimes have the dining report. You don't necessarily see it up here, but the dining report was filled out and is in all the different floors. So I don't think we need to go there unless there is an overwhelming desire by the chair of the dining committee to issue a report. Yes, Penny? I mean, Jeannie, could you hand her a microphone?
Sorry, I didn't know I was going to be asked to
Yeah.
speak. So I'm very glad to be here. I think everyone agrees things are getting better and there are still challenges. I think what the Food Committee really appreciates is the response of staff, of Hearthstone staff and Sodexo, and they're being very honest and giving answers and explaining why they can and cannot do things. This is a big change for us, and we all know there are several people that are being served, and we each have our favorites and our hates, and they have a big challenge in pleasing most of us, and so far they're doing a good job, and we really appreciate their honesty. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Upcoming elections of resident council officers. This is an interesting one. Over the years, the process has been that the board in place puts together a slate, brings it to everybody. Okay, Penny, I'm not quite there. Okay? So there has been a nominating committee in the past, and what has happened over the COVID years is that whole process has been kind of truncated. And so where we are now is that we have developed a slate to be presented. There's a misstatement in the announcement that went out. The election is not today. The election for the new board is at the next assembly in April. All right? So what we have now is a list of folks who have agreed to serve, this slate is presented. Then when you get together on your various floors and in your buildings, you can nominate more people, and then you bring that to this assembly, and the assembly votes. So right now, at large, the slate includes Carolyn Leon, who is at large. Now, the reason I mentioned her first, what'd I say? Carolyn. I'm sorry. So anyway, the significance is that last year, the Residence Fund for Employees was turned over to the Residence Council. And I'm sure many of you have read, but just to give a quick recap of why that happened. For years, the Hearthstone collected the money, then handed it out. And the problem with that was that the Hearthstone had to pay taxes on that because it was seen as wages. And the employees did as well. So the move was to instead have the Hearthstone collect the money, then give it to the Residents' Council. And the Residents' Council distributes. The Hearthstone still does all of the bookwork and it's all done on number of hours performed. And so what they do is give us a list, say here's how much each person gets. So it's a pretty transparent and straightforward thing. And at the same time, it's a lot of bookkeeping. And so we worked through that this year, and we're going to be doing it again next year, but we now have the system in place. And thank you for agreeing to do it for one more year. You did a great job. So, treasurer. We are very pleased to say that Allison Bacello has agreed to serve. Allison is here if you want to stand up and wave or whatever so people see you. We're trying to do geographic distribution. She lives in Cove West, all right? Vice President on the 10th floor of this building is Georgia Oistad. Where are Georgia? Georgia's in the back, all right? What'd you say? A second. Well, we don't know who's going to be president because it just isn't a natural flow along. I mean, there could be, never mind. What about secretary? Critical task. Taking minutes, doing all of that. It's an open position. We don't have a nominee. What we'd like to hear is recommendations. People, when you go back to your floors, make some nominations for secretary. Now, here again, the rules of the bylaws, and the question is, given the fact we're still in a transition, bylaws are not necessarily, are they laws or rules? Other nominations may be made in writing at the April meeting by 10 or more residents. Well, I don't know whether we really have to have 10 residents say this is the person. But the most important thing is that certification that the nominee agrees to serve if elected. Because that's a big problem. We've talked to lots and lots of people about being secretary, and it's not an onerous task, but it's a task. Taking minutes and doing all of that sort of thing. So it's an important thing for you to remember as you get together with the floors and go through that process. And we'll send out a little list to the floor chairs, so outlining the process and who's on the slate. So that's the way that's working. Floor reports. We didn't get the president? Well, that's right. Well, the president would be the existing vice president. I don't know who that is. 'Tis I humbly beseech you for your vote. Enough campaigning. So now let's hear from the floors. And what we've been hearing in the past is how many extra units there are or whatever. But also, if there's something going on in your floor that's interesting, I mean, we're a community. Let's hear what's happening on the various floors, all right? But we'll start with the building first. Now, Molly and Jean have microphones, so please wait until they get there, all right, rather than having come all the way up here. And so how about Cove East? There you go.
Good afternoon. We have 2 vacancies, okay? So I'll get that out of the way. We've been playing around with doing something about the furniture and the arrangement in our commons room, and we've got a very talented in-house committee that's been shoving things around and going out to furniture stores and looking around, and I think we're going to come up with some interesting environment for our people to gather.
Great. Thank you. Cove West.
Am I on?
You're on.
Okay.
Yeah, would you take your mat? There you go, thank you.
I'm mask off. We're very pleased to be able to welcome 2 new residents to Cove West, Wayne and Judy Walther. I don't know if they're here, but we're very glad to have them come in last week, and we're looking forward to getting to know them and hope you will welcome them as well.
Good, thank you. 10th floor, this building. Georgia. Oh, she's going to get 2 mics.
We are very happy to welcome Therese and Keith onto the 10th floor. I think there'll be some hopping. And we have 1 vacancy.
Okay, thank you. 9th floor.
Thank you. We actually have had 2 people from our floor move to assisted living. And so we now have basically 2 vacant apartments. One will be made into a 2-bedroom with, it's a 1-bedroom now, it'll be made into a 2-bedroom with the studio that's next door to it. And the other is a, not sure, was Dick's a 1-bedroom? I think a studio, and the other is a studio. So we have 2 vacancies. However, we have people moving in to the 2-bedroom probably in late August, September, something like that. And they happen to be people Frank and I have known for about 45 years from our old neighborhood. So that's kind of fun. We'll welcome them to the Hearthstone. So thank you.
Thank you. 8, floor 8. No report. No report. Floor 7. Hang on just a second, let's get a mic to you.
We now have 4 vacancies. One of our residents had to move to assisted living. So we now have 4 vacancies, and we hope they get filled soon. Thank you.
Thank you. 6.
We have 3 vacancies, 2.
Molly.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. We have 2 1-bedroom apartments available and 1 studio. And one nice thing that we've done is our vice chair, Suzanne Rice, has organized a monthly game night. And we wanted to do something during the winter on these cold nights to have something fun to look forward to. And they've been well attended, and the ones that have come have had a good time. So,
Super.
Yeah.
Thank you.
if you'd like to come and show us.
So how many Dungeons and Dragons fans do we have in here? All right, well, there's, okay. 5th floor.
Hi, I'm Bev Larson. On the 5th floor, we have 1 vacancy. And I would call on our director of activities, whose name is Dosey Wallops. But I don't know if Dosey is still here. Does Dosey have a report on activities on the 5th floor? She doesn't talk very much. It's a resident puppy.
Oh, a resident puppy. Okay. Wow. How about assisted living, 4th floor?
We've instituted a social hour on Wednesday late afternoons.
Super. Thank you. So one thing it just occurred to me as you ride up and down the elevators, if you're just kind of don't have much to do, riding the elevator and getting off on each floor and looking at the elevator displays, there are some pretty incredible things out there. And I'm sure it's the same down in the Coves. It's just I love the creativity that's on each floor in the community, and it's wonderful. Which means that I'd really like to remind you of some upcoming events that are important. First of all, remember the survey you filled out? All that, okay. It's finally done. It's all been collated and analyzed and all of that. This Friday at 2 o'clock, there will be a presentation in this room. Now, the company that has put it all together will be doing the report, and it will be done via Zoom. In other words, he won't be here, he'll be on the screen. We should, it just should be fascinating to hear the report. It also will be live streamed on channel 370, as well as, Stephen, also on, okay, it goes to 370, it goes to YouTube. Yeah. So I'm going to digress for this. Tony was talking about all the good people around here. We struggled for a long time to get everything to work for the movies in here. And then to get it so that when people are away, Gene and I were gone, we were down in California, and we watched the last 2 sessions, live stream and whatnot. All of that stuff has come together because of the focused effort of this guy, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. So, anyway, on Friday. Also, springtime, you may have heard, is not too far away. There are daffodils out there, but also go down and take a look at the garden. The garden at the Coves, because it's really great. Now, we just heard that on Thursday there will be free margaritas at the lakeside, or you know what I mean. What's it called? The Water's Edge, thank you. Also, remember that Friday is St. Patrick's Day, and there will be a special happy hour. I talked to John last night. He's trying to figure out what kind of, obviously you're going to serve Guinness and whatever, but then what kind of food do you serve? So he's thinking of maybe some hard biscuits. But some cheeses, potatoes, all of that sort of thing, yes. Corned beef. He'll serve something. So that's it. But there is one other thing that now that you mentioned that. If you don't have anything due to tomorrow, here's something for you to celebrate. Tomorrow is National Potato Chip Day. With that, we've covered the ground. We've done it in an hour. Don? Oh, sure, because for those of you, well, he already got a round of applause, he and Gene, for doing the movies and the Oscars, but let's give it to him again. Now, Molly, not that he ever needs a microphone, but could you give Don a microphone? Oh, turn it on.
Speaking of movies, so as Frank has alluded to, Friday is St. Patrick's Day, and I was talking with several people on our floor, particularly Barbara Lundquist, who said, I've never seen The Quiet Man. And so on Friday, right here at 7 o'clock, we will be screening The Quiet Man. And if you've never seen it, it's probably the quintessential Hollywood take on all things Irish. Thank you.
Thank you.
7 o'clock
7
Friday.
o'clock, right here. Okay, Gene? Penny has her hand raised. Could you hand her a mic? Oh, well, either way, got it.
Thank you. While we're making announcements, I'd like to remind you that the Monday lecture series is back on tap, and this coming Monday, we're going to see part 2 of Greg Eison's taped series by a respected professor at Harvard University called Justice, What's the Right Thing to Do? So 10 o'clock Monday in the chapel. And the following Monday, we are really privileged to be able to see the tapes of Frank Wasserman's letters from his parents in 1937, when his father had accepted a job at the University of Chicago, and he and Franz came to Chicago, and his mother and sister were still trapped in Germany. So there is nothing violent. It is everyday correspondence, but I have never known anyone who has seen it who hasn't forgotten it. It's very long, 2 hours in the morning, we'll break for lunch, and then have an hour and a half in the afternoon.
Wow. 3.5 hours? That
Yes,
could be a
you could
movie for the
add.
Academy Awards.
You must have gone to Catholic school.
Gene, behind you. Do you still have a mic?
Hi, I'm Stu Heller, part of the Cove Garden Maintenance Committee.
Stu, would you take your mask off so we can hear you better? Thank you.
And for those of you who are thinking about spraying and growing things, we have one planter box that is available. And if you're interested in growing something over at the Cove Garden, please see me about that before it's too late.
Yeah. Okay. Any other announcements? All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? A second. We are adjourned. Thank you for all for coming. We'll see you in a month, I hope. Well, we must.